All right, so let's start today's session. So today we're going to see some most important topic, and which is not specific to TestNG feature, or it is very much important for designing the frameworks. So model, page object model. Okay, so first of all, let us try to understand what is this page object model and why it is so important to design the automation frameworks. So first of all, let us try to understand. We have so far created multiple test cases using TestNG style. Like we have created multiple test methods and we have executed through XML file and so on. So that is a normal approach, like without using page object model, by using page object model. So we can write test cases in two different ways. So if I don't use page object model, a pattern, so what are the uh, problems or what are the challenges normally we face if you do not have any page object model approach, if you don't use anything in your automation? And at the same time, if I use page object model in our automation, so what are the additional benefits we'll get? So that we'll understand. So first of all, what is page object model? So page object model is basically a design pattern. A design pattern means we can maintain the locators or the web elements in a separate classes. So normally when you create a test case, what is the test case contains? Test case contains multiple things, like we will have all the locators we will place in the same class, and all the test methods also we will place in the same class. And again in the test methods, we will write the simple code, and also we'll put all the validations. Validation methods and plus action methods. Everything will include in one test, right? So we'll identify the elements, and uh, we will also interact with the elements, which are called actions. And after interacting the web elements, we do some validation. So everything will include in one single test. We'll combine everything, locators, test methods, then validations, actions, everything we will put in one single test, right? So this is without page object model pattern. So page object model is not a framework. So most of the people will think it is a framework. No, it is not a framework. It is a design pattern. This is a design pattern, like which describes the way we maintain the locators, the way we maintain the web elements. So normally the test case and web elements, we don't put together in one single class. In the page object model pattern, we don't combine these things. We will split them into multiple parts. So all the locators will have separate class, and test methods having separate class. Inside the test methods, we will have all the validations, only validations. Okay. And the locators will put in the separate class. So in the page object model is basically a pattern in which we will maintain the locators or web elements and test methods. So these two we separate in the separate classes. We divide them into the separate classes. That is page object model pattern. So why we need to separate? What is the additional benefit you will get if you separate? How it will reduce our effort? We'll see that practically within examples. So let me show you a small picture here. Yeah. All right. So let us look at this picture. So this is without page object model pattern. So what are the problems normally we have if I do not use page object model pattern? If I write a test cases normally, what are the problems we will face? Okay, let us discuss this pattern first. And then we will try to understand what is the advantage of page object model pattern. Okay. So if I look at this, these are all my different tests which I have written in TestNG. Let's say test 1, test 2, and test 3, and so on. So you can have multiple tests. Okay. So let us assume my test 1 is in this, I want to perform the login test. In the test 1, I want to perform the login test. In the test 2, I want to perform the searching test. Search test 3, I want to perform the advanced searching. So different tests I want to do in the different test cases. Now, when I do these testing, when I write these test cases, suppose I want to write a login test case. To write a login test case, we need to locate a web element from the login page. right? We'll maintain the web element from the login page. So while creating the login test, we will refer the web elements, okay, and from the login page itself. We'll refer all the web elements from the login page. We'll put in the test and we will write the test. Now, when you're writing the test case 2, and here I want to perform the searching test. And in this, again, I want to start from the login page. So first I need to log into the application. And once I successfully log in, I will get a search box. And there I can do the searching validation. So if you want to automate second test case, how many pages are required? How many web pages we need to interact with? 2 web pages. One is login page, the other one is a search page. So to perform the login test, we need only one single page, login page. But if we want to perform search test, we need 2 pages, login page and search page. So in this test, I will locate all the elements from the login page, and also I will locate all the elements from the search page. 2 pages are required. Suppose if we automate the test case 3, and here I want to perform testing on advanced search. And to go to the advanced search, first we need to go to login page. Then we need to go to the search page. There I can find the advanced search options. So how many pages are required to automate test 3? 3 pages are required. Login page, search page, advanced search page. Now, if I look at this particular scenario, to automate login test, we are identifying the web element from the login page. When you're automating test 2, we are identifying the web elements from the login page as well as search page. Similarly, when you're automating test 3, we are locating web elements from the login page, search page, advanced search page. If you look at this particular approach, there are 2 problems we can identify. So one problem is, let us say the login page web elements, we have to identify or locate multiple times in multiple test cases. So in the login test 1, I have to locate login page web elements. Again, in the test 2, login page is required. So here also I can write one more time. All the locators, login page locators, elements, we can specify one more time. Even the test 3 also, again, one more time, we have to write a locators for login page, also search page. So this is a problem. So this is the first problem. So duplication of elements or locators. If you have just 1 or 2 test cases, you don't see much different. But if you have a huge number of test cases, 150 or 100 test cases, then this is the biggest problem. Because identifying the elements in one page, one time is not enough. So same elements, same locators, we have to again return multiple times in multiple test cases. Why? Because test cases are independent. Test 2 is not dependent on test 1. Test 3 is not dependent on test 2. So we cannot achieve any reusability here. So same elements we have to locate in first test case, second test case, third test. So login page we have to locate 3 times. Search page we have to locate 2 times, right? So this is the first problem, duplication of elements and locators. Now the second problem. Okay, suppose I have located this login page elements in 3 different tests. So I have located these elements, or we have written the locators for login page in 3 different tests. Tomorrow something is got changed in the login page itself. Suppose some attribute is got changed or some XPath is got changed for that particular element. Then what I should do, I should go and modify that in every test case. Okay, suppose there is a input box for login and the attribute or some XPath is got changed for this input box. Because locators are written in every test. So we need to go and modify that particular element, specific element in every test method. This is another problem, updation. So these are the 2 major problems normally we have if we do not use page object model pattern. So to overcome these 2 problems, page object model pattern will be preferred always in our automation frameworks or automation projects. Okay, everybody's understood. These are the 2 problems. If anybody asks you during interview, you should be able to confidently explain this. So why we need page object model pattern? Can't we do framework or can't we implement the framework without having page object model? So we can implement, but these are the problems we will face normally. Okay. Now, if I use page object model pattern, how we can overcome these two problems? How we can overcome these problems by using page object model pattern. Now, let me share another picture. Yeah. Yeah. So let's look at this. This is a page object model pattern. So how we can overcome those two challenges by introducing page object model pattern. Yeah. So in the page object model, the main concept is we will divide the locators and test methods in two different classes. So as of now, when I create our test case, which contains the two parts, locators plus methods, test methods, right? Everything we included in one test case. But in the page object model pattern, we will divide them into two different. So locators we will maintain in a separate class, and test methods we will maintain in the separate class. Okay, locators and test methods will split into two different classes in the page object model pattern. So this is the main crucial step. So when I divide this into two different classes, then what are the advantages we will get out of this page object model? Let us see this. Let us say in the page object model, first step, we will try to identify how many pages are there in your application. According to the test cases, how many pages you are going to interact. So first we need to find out. Let us say I have a 3 pages in my application: login page, search page, advanced search. These are the pages, P1, P2, P3, I'm just calling. These are the pages on your web page or web applications. So I have 3 pages. Now, in the page object model, initial step, what we will do is for each page, whatever, how many pages you have in your application, for every page, we will create a dedicated class. Suppose you have a 10 different pages in your application, we will create a 10 different classes. So each page is having their own dedicated class, which we have to create. And what this class contains, this class, we will specify only the page elements. What are the web elements are there in this page? All the web elements we will keep in this class. Along with this web elements or page elements, we will also write action methods. Suppose if there's an input box, we will write it that page element plus send keys method. That's an action method. Suppose there is a button, we will identify that element and also will perform the action method called click. So the page object class contains page elements along with the action methods, and which doesn't have any test methods, doesn't have any validations. So test methods, validations, we will write in a separate class. That's the main class. Okay. So for every page in your application, there is a dedicated class which we have to create. So for the login page, we will create a separate page object class, which is called as a page object class, which contains only page elements corresponding action methods. And these action methods, we have to create our own methods. And similarly, another page called search. This particular page, we will create another page object class, which contains elements only from the search page. We should not combine. So when I create a page object class for login page, it should contains only login page elements. We should not add any other elements from any other web pages. So it should contains only login page elements and action methods. Similarly, for search page, we will get a separate page object class, which is also contains only element from the search page and action methods. Same thing we will repeat for all the pages which are available in our application. Yes, just we have to put only elements and we will write our own action methods. Again, this we can create in multiple ways, multiple approaches are there. I will explain them slowly. First, understand the concept theoretically, then we will implement them practically. So the page object class contains only web elements and action methods. Remember this point. First step, we will identify all the pages. Second step, we will create a page object classes for each page. Now the third step, test case class we have to create. As usual, we will create a TestNG class, right? So we will create a TestNG class. In this class, we will have only test methods which contains the validations. And we don't write any elements, we don't identify any elements, we don't write any action methods because we already written them in the page object class. So in the test methods, what you will do now, in the test methods, we will try to get these elements from the page object class, and action methods also we will call, or else we will just call only action methods, and these action methods will perform actions on the web elements. After that, we do validation here. That means our test case will actually talk to the page object class, and our page object class action methods will interact with these page elements and perform corresponding actions on the web page. This is the process. And the login test, when I create a test case which contains only test methods and the validations. So no page elements, no actions, nothing, only test methods and validation. So this is very, very easy to create the test case now. Why? Because we already separated page elements, action methods. So 80% of the job is done in the page object class itself. Only 20% of the task, that is writing a test method, adding validations, we do in the actual test case. So this is the way we need to follow in a page object class, page object model pattern. Now, if I look at the second test case, let's say search page. There is a separate page object class is there. Same advanced search, there is another page object class. So how many pages we have? Those many number of page object classes which we need to create. Every page object class contains their own page elements and their own action methods. Now, how we can overcome the problems which we have discussed earlier, like a duplication of elements and updation problem. So how we can overcome those two problems in page object model pattern. If I look at this approach, login page elements, we are identifying only once, right? We put in the page object class, corresponding page object class. And search page elements, we are identifying only once. We keep them inside the another page object class. Similarly, advanced search page, we are identifying elements only once and keeping in another page object class. So at the time of writing login test, which page object class we have to interact? Only one page object class. We are calling these action methods. This action methods will interact with the page elements and then it will perform the action. So the login test, we are using page elements or locator action methods from the page object class, because here we need only one page. Now when you come to the second test, search test, how many pages we have to interact here is two pages. One is login page, the other one is search page. So the login page elements we have to get from the login page object class, and the search page elements we will get it from search page object class. So we are getting the elements from the two page object classes. Okay, and here we are not going to get any elements or anything. We have only test methods and validations, but we are getting the elements from two page object classes. Okay, and login page elements we have written only once in the page object class. So that we are referring in the test one. The same elements we are referring the test two. Same login page elements we are referring in the test three also. So once you write your all locators and action methods, we can reuse them in multiple test cases. Multiple test cases. Similarly, if I want to automate advanced search, 3 pages are required. Elements which are related to 3 pages which are required. So I'm getting the elements, login page element from the login page object class. I will get the search page element from the search page, and I will get advanced search page element from the advanced search. So here I'm referring 3 page object classes to get the elements. So in this approach, how we can overcome those two problems which we have discussed. First problem is a duplication problem, right? So here there is no problem of the duplication. Why? Because the login page elements we have put in one single page object class. The same page object class we are referring in multiple test cases. So reusability is achieved. So there is no duplication. One problem is got solved. The second problem, updation. Suppose if there is any change happened in the login page or any other search page or any other page. So that particular change we can include only in the particular page object class, only one place. Only one place we will update. Suppose any XPath is got modified, any element attributes are got changed. So whatever changes are happen in this particular page, those changes we can add corresponding in the corresponding page object class. Only one place, one time. That will automatically reflect in all the test cases because we reused the same page elements in all the test cases. So if you update in one place, that will automatically reflect in all the test cases. So updation problem is also got solved. So first problem is duplication. Second problem is a updation. If I do not use page object model pattern, so we face these two problems. When I use page object model pattern, we can avoid these two problems. If you have one or two, three test cases, you don't see much difference. And moreover, while using page object model pattern, you will feel some difficulty because you have a less number of test cases. You need to do a lot of things. But if you have a huge number of test cases, then this particular approach will be very, very beneficial. Okay. So everybody's understood about this page object model. What is page object model? If I do not use page object model, what is the problem? When I use page object model, what are the advantage you will get? Everybody is clear? This is a theoretical part. So once you clear about theory, then I will jump into practical part. So the benefit of page object model is we will maintain a separate page object classes for every page in your application. And whenever you need element from test cases, we will get them from the particular page object class. And the main concept in the page object model is we will separate elements and action methods in one class, test methods and validation in another class. And we no need to execute this page object model. We just execute only test case. This test case will invoke the page object class and the page object class will interact with the application. Okay. So this is the page object model pattern we will always prefer to use in our automation framework or automation projects. So without having this kind of pattern, we could not find any kind of frameworks. Okay, so this is a very, very important. So without using this, there is no framework available. So we have to use this particular pattern in our automation frameworks. Now let us jump into the practical part. We'll see how we can create our page object class, how we can create the test case, and how the test case will interact with the page object class. So all these things we'll see practically one by one. And this is the approach we are going to follow in our real-time projects also. Okay. Now, so let us see how we can create test cases using page object class approach. So while creating the test cases using page object class and the page object class, we can create in two different methods. Page object class also we can create in two different ways. One is using page factory without using page factory by using page factory. So there are two most popular approaches are there. Approaches to create page object classes. There are two approaches we have to create a page object classes. One is by using page factory. Another one is without using page factory. So this page factory is basically a class, predefined class provided by Selenium WebDriver itself to create a page object classes. Even if you're not using this page factory class, we can still create a page object classes. So first we will see without using page factory, how we can create a page object class. Okay. So now I will take one test case. So what are the steps we include here? First, we need to create page object class. Then we have to create a test case. Then we have to create an XML file. And XML file is optional. If you want to run the test case directly, you can run it, or through XML file also, you can run it. So the workflow will be like this. Let us say this is my application under test. And here, this is our page object class. And this page object class interacted by our actual test case class. So when I run the test case, it will interact with the page object class. The page object class will interact with the application. Again, if you want to run this test case using XML file, you can still run it. So now XML file execute the test case and test case will interact with the page object class. Page object class will actually perform the actions on the application under test. So this is the workflow. Okay. Now we'll see, first we'll create a page object class, then we will create a test case. And if possible, we can also create an XML file and run the test. That is again same process earlier we followed. Right. So we can create a page object classes in two different methods. One is without using page factory, means we don't use any page factory predefined class. And second approach is by using page factory. So now let me show you practically how we can do that. Fine. So let's go to Eclipse and create new package, day 47. Okay, so first step, we need to identify the web page and we need to keep add elements in the page object class. Right, so what I'll do is I will take this orange HRM application again. You can take any web page. So I'm taking this particular page. Okay, so I want to perform login test. First, let me take a simple one. Okay, let's take a login test. So if you want to automate this login, the login page is required. And in the login page, what are all elements we require to perform login test? What are all elements we required in this? How many elements we required? Only 3 elements: username, password, login. That's it, right? If you have these 3 elements, we can interact with the web page. So when you're creating the page object classes, according to the test case, what are all elements we required? Only those elements we will add to the page object class. So you don't need to add every element. Suppose in this page, there are some social icons, there are some links, there is image, there are a lot of things are there. But for login test, I don't need all the elements. Only few elements are required initially. So in the login page, whatever elements are required initially for your test case, you can just add only those elements. But later on, suppose if you're automating some other test cases, which are required these logo, social icon and everything, then later on you can add other elements to the same page object class. So in the day one itself, you don't need to keep add all the elements in the page object class, not at all needed. But initially, whatever elements you require, just add those elements to the page object class. Okay. So URL is a different. This we will put as part of the test method. Okay. We should not include URLs, all those things in the page object class. Remember, page object class contains only page elements and corresponding action methods. Other than this, we should not put anything. Validations, we should not put. URLs and other things, test data, all those things we should not put. Only the web elements and corresponding action methods we have to include in the page object class. Okay, and according to the test case, first you need to read the test case and what are elements you require to interact. Add those elements to the test. Okay, so now from this particular login page, I will create one page object class, and in that I will add these 3 elements. Okay, so let's go to the Eclipse and I'm going to create a page object class. So go to the new class and I will name it as a login page. Login page. Okay, so whenever you create a page object class, remember very carefully, there are 3 main sections we need to create, 3 main parts. Any page object class. It can be using page factory or without using page factory, in whichever approach you used while creating the page object class, which includes mainly 3 parts. The first part is called locators. We need to write all the locators for the elements. And before writing the locators, we need to write something called constructor. There is one constructor we have to write for the login page. So what is this constructor will do is this constructor will initiate the web driver. Because if you want to locate a web element, we have to write a find element method. When you write a find element method, we need a driver also, right? So we will first write a one constructor and this will initiate the driver automatically. Second part is we have to write a locators. And the third part is we have to write an action methods. Action methods we have to write. So every page object class contains these 3 sections. One is constructor, locators list of all the locators, and action methods. So what is the purpose of writing the constructor is it will initiate the driver, and locators, all XPaths, IDs, whatever you want, you can put them. And action methods, by using the locators, we will try to locate element and perform the action method. So these are the 3 sections we will write in every page object class, right? So how to create a constructor and what you will do in this constructor. Constructor name should be same as a class name, right? So let us take the class name login page. And what this login page will do is this login page constructor will initiate the driver. So I'm creating one WebDriver variable here because I'm making as a class variable so that the same WebDriver I can access in multiple action methods. Okay. So I created this variable. So to initiate this driver using constructor, what I will do is I will also get the driver from the test. So this driver I will pass from the test case later. And this particular driver I will assign to the local class driver. How we can assign? This one I will assign to the local driver. How we can differentiate? Can we write like this driver dot driver? Can we write like this? Driver equal to driver. No. Why? Because this driver is a local variable. This is a class variable. So the name of the variable is same. So we need to differentiate. So this is a keyword we have to use. This dot driver equal to type. So this we will create the object of login page later in actual test method. So from there, we are invoking the constructor. This will automatically invoke. At the time of invoking this constructor, we will pass this driver parameter from the test case. And this will create the driver instance. Whatever driver we are passing, the same driver is assigning to the driver variable. So the constructor is doing this particular job. It will initiate the driver. Okay. Now the second part is called locators. How to write the locators? Just observe this. Let us say, go back to this and I'm locating, inspecting the username element. And if you go back to this username, this is the XPath. Let's say this is my XPath. Earlier, how we have located this web element earlier in the previous approach. This is the process case, driver dot find element and by dot XPath, whichever attribute, XPath, name, ID, CSS, whatever, you can put like this, XPath. So this is the way we can write. So this is the locator that we are storing into the variable. Let's say user txt box. And type of this variable is web element. So this is how we have written earlier. So we first identified the element, store in that element in a variable, and we will perform some action on this variable. Right? This is how we have done earlier. Now in the page object model pattern, how we have to write a locators. In which format you have to write a locators? Just observe. In this particular statement, there are multiple things are there. So if you look at this particular statement, who is identifying the element? Who is identifying? Find element, right? So this is a find element, not driver. Find element is a method is trying to find that element. How it is finding the element? Find element is a method which is finding the element. Okay, fine. On what basis it is finding the element? Based on the locator. So whatever we specify in this particular box, right? This is entire part is called locator. Okay. So the find element is a method which will identify the element based on the locator we passed. So whatever is appearing in this particular bracket, this particular part is called locator. Okay. Now I will split this entire statement into two different parts. Observe very carefully. This is a crucial step. So I will separate this locator like this. Okay. Now I will store this locator in a variable. I create one variable called like this. So this particular part I will store in a variable. Now what is the type of this variable? This is just a locator. It cannot locate an element. Okay. When I use find element, then only it will identify the element. Till that time, it is just a locator. And if I store this locator in a variable, what is the type of this variable? Can you guess? What type of variable it should be? It can be here, you can use ID or CSS, XPath, whatever it is. Ultimately, this particular locator method will return by. By is a return type. By is a return type, not a string. So these are all different objects. Okay, by type of variable it will return. So by dot xpath, if I put only locator separate, if I separate this locator part, this locator will always return something, and that variable should be by type. So this is called locator. This is called a locator. Now, in this next statement, I will write like this: driver dot find element. Okay, and inside this, I can pass this variable or not. I can pass this variable, right? So the locator I have stored in a variable, and in the next step, driver dot find element, and this locator I'm passing in this. Is it exactly same or not? So whatever I'm doing here in single step, I'm doing the same thing in two different steps, right? In the first step, I've written the locator. In the second step, I'm finding the element. I'm finding the element. Then if you want to perform action, you can perform the action. I'm using send keys method here. Send keys, some value I will pass. So the same statement I have split into two different parts. The locator I have stored in a variable, and after that I'm using find element of locator dot send keys. So in the locators part, whatever section I have given, in this locators section, we have to write locators only in this particular format. In this particular format, we have to write all the locators. Okay. And this part we will include in the action methods. This part we will include in the action methods. Okay. So let us try to write all the locators in this locator section. So first part, username input box. Inspect this element, and you will get this username, and write a locator. So by dot xpath, you don't need to write any find element or find nothing. So just by dot xpath, you can write. Okay, so it will give you some methods like this, but you need to just correct this. Okay, so by dot xpath. And here in the double quotes, you can put the xpath and store this in a variable. So here, what is this? This is the input box. So tst underscore, I can say username. And what is the type of this variable? It should be, and this is not username element. This is the locator. So I can say locator, only locator. It is not a web element. This is not a web element. This is just a locator. Okay. Type of this variable is by. Fine. Similarly, we will also write the locators for other two elements. So for password, username, and password underscore locator. And this is a button, right? So I can say BTN, button, and I can say login underscore LOC. Whenever you give the names, give always the meaningful names, okay? Because by seeing the variable name, you have to know what exactly it is. This is a TXT. TXT means an input box or text box, username text box, and locator. So these three elements, we have to write an XPath properly. So again, I have to go to the next element, password, and get the password element. Go back and then specify here. This XPath for the password. Now again, go back to the application, go to the login, get the XPath for the login, and place it over here. Like this, we have to write all the locators. And instead of XPath, you can put any other locators. If you have ID, CSS, whatever you want, again, same process. And the return type is also same. If I use ID or XPath, CSS, whatever it is, the return type is same, by. So like this, we have to first create all the locators. Okay, here, there is a challenge. Here we have only three elements. So we have successfully located each element, and I put them here. Suppose if you have a more number of elements, you have 10 elements or 20 elements in a web page, and it is very, very complex page. It is very, very difficult to go and find each and every element and capture the XPath. It's a repetitive task, right? It takes a lot of time. So we feel some difficulty in this, because first we need to locate element, capture the XPath, and copy the XPath here. and then again go to the web page and try to locate another element, again capture the XPath, again put it here. So this is very, very tedious task if you have a more number of elements. So to simplify this task, selector hub is provided few options. We can easily create our page object class. Okay. So let me show you how we can create locators for all the elements in one single shot. Very, very easy to do this. Let me show you how we can do this. Go to selector hub. In the selector hub, there is an option. There are some options here. You can see here the second part, set driver command to append on selectors. Okay, so you can just click on it. Here, it will ask you the format. It will ask you the format, in which format you want to generate the locators. You can set the format in whichever format you want. Suppose I want to generate the format just like this. I remove this part. Find element I don't need. Only by.xpath and xpath value. Just keep this format. And also I'll remove this part. So this is the format I want all the locators, right? This is the format I want all the locators. Now you set this format. So once you set this format, okay, now just observe. It started generating locators in this format. So now onwards, you can locate any element. Suppose I'm locating login. So this is the XPath. So you can see I'm locating username. Now you can see same format it is giving, right? And first we need to set this format. The second part is now you can just go here. Third option, click to generate locators page and multiple selectors. Third option, click on it. You'll get a small page here. So you can just try to inspect all the elements one after another. So now what I'll do is I will take this particular inspector, and what are all elements you want to inspect, just click on it. First, I need username. And after that, I need password. After that, I click on login. It's not started. Just a second. So let me refresh the page. Yeah, now we can see it is automatically generated. Let me clear this first. Again, I'm going to create. So click on this arrow mark. Take the first element, click on it. See, automatically generated. Now again, click on the arrow mark and click on the next element, and arrow mark, click on the login. See, all three elements are captured. Just to do copy here, you can see copy option. Just copy it, go back, and just place it here. That's it. The variables you have to create. So let's say by txt underscore username underscore locator variables we need to create. So very, very simple, right? So we can create locators for n number of elements in simple manner. Very, very simplest way we can do it. So useful or not? Very, very useful, right? So instead of going to each and every element and writing the locator, copying it, unnecessary stuff. So you can just capture all the elements in one shot and use this copy option and get all of them into your page object. Okay. But in which format you want, that you need to specify. So again, one more time. Suppose currently I am specifying this format. Again, I need another format. For example, same, it will work for other things also. Name ID also you can put here. Okay. But most of the times we prefer them. We always prefer only XPath. Okay. So suppose I want to get this locator along with the find element method. Okay. For example, I want to get this locator along with the find element. So then what we can do is just clear this, delete all of them. And you need to set the format. Again, go to the second option. And previously, go to the second option. This is the format we used. Now change the format. If I click on it, it will show you different formats, in which format you want. And this is for Cypress, this is for Python, and this is for Java. So like again, change the format. Now I need entire locator along with the driver.find element. So once you set the format, and again, it is already started. So now try to inspect this element, username, and then password. Okay. And now you can see login button. And once you enter, just copy and go back and paste here. See this, along with find element, everything is got generated. So these are the very, very useful features we will get from the selector hub. And if you go to the selector hub pro version, you'll get some more advanced features. So in this, what exactly we are doing is we are just set this format, whichever format you want, we set this format. So I can again remove this part. So this is the format I want. And I want to write locators for multiple elements. So once you set this format, it is already started, this one. And now inspect. First, we are inspecting one element generated. After that, again, I have to take this inspector button. Again, I have to locate the another element generated. Again, I have to take this inspector. Again, I have to locate element. Again, in this, there is some repetition process involved. What is the repetition process? We need to inspect each and every element. Before inspecting every element, every time I have to take this inspector option. So every time I have to take this inspector and element, identify. Again inspector, again one more element. Again inspector, another element. You have to take this inspector multiple times for multiple web elements. So in advanced version, in the pro version, we can also avoid this repetition. I already have the pro version. Just for your understanding, I will show you. Just listen. I'm going to Selector Hub Pro version. So in the pro version, basically you no need to click on this inspector button. So what is the main difference is in the pro version, again, you will get the same kind of a window. Everything is same. But here you no need to click on arrow mark every time and locate element. Just one time you click arrow mark and just whichever element you want, you can click on. Suppose I'm clicking on here, then click on here, then click on here, click on here, like this. You can just keep clicking on all the elements one after another. Then it will automatically generate the locator. So that's one advanced feature which is provided in the selector hub. So currently I don't have a login. I cannot use it. Okay. So this is very, very helpful feature from selector hub. Remember, it is very useful when you're creating a page object classes. It will reduce a lot of time, lot of effort for us. If you don't have this feature, it's very difficult. It's take a lot of time to create a page elements, especially locators. Okay. And we need to write our locators. That's the one part. And other part is we need to get them and put them inside the code is another part. So it is very, very tedious task. So try to use that particular feature whenever you're creating the page object class. Okay. So once it is done, you can just stop this option and everything is gone. And again, you come back to the previous approach like this and find it. Okay. So, and if you want to reset everything, so currently there's different formats of set. Now again, you want to go back to the previous one, default. So you will have a reset option here. You can just go back. And if I just go back to the settings, now here, the last option. So click to reset all settings to the default. If I click on it, again, everything will be reset. Just refresh the page. Now again, it come back to the default one. So XPath is got generated. So these are the most important features you can explore from the selector. Fine. So now we have created one constructor. First part is done. Second part, we created a locators. This part is also done because as of now, only 3 elements we required for login. I just added them. Now come to the action methods. How to create an action methods for these 3 elements. So how many elements we have added here? So those many action methods we have to create. So every locator, we have to create a specific action method. Okay. So for example, the first action method I'm writing, make everything as a public. So void set user name. These are user defined methods. So you can give any name to this method, but it should be more meaningful. When I read this name, you have to know why this method is got created. Set username. So this method will set the username. And I will pass one parameter, web element. Okay, web element I will pass into this. And what is that web element I will pass is, sorry, not web element, username. String username I will pass. Okay, and this method I will call from the actual test case. Okay, and set username, and it will take username as a password. Okay, and this particular username I will try to pass into this particular element, first element. So here you will write driver dot find element, and which locator you have to use? This one. So use this locator dot send keys of whatever username I'm getting here, that you can pass it. That's it. So this is the action method for username input box. So we have taken the username as a parameter, and we have located this element by using find element, and we pass the username as a parameter. And similar way, we have to create another action methods for password also. So let me create another action method. Public void set password. Set password, and this method also will take password parameter, so that we will send through test case. So string pwd. Now inside this, I will try to locate element, driver.find element, and locator we already located here. So just pass this variable element dot send keys pwd. So whatever password I'm getting here as a parameter, I'm just passing it. So second action method is also done. Now the third action method for button, for clicking on a button. Public void click login, and here get the element driver.find element, and here what is the locator we have to use? This one, btn login locator dot. So which action we have to perform? Click action. Just say click action. That's it. So this is the way we have to create action methods. So first part is a constructor, second part are locators, third part are action methods. So these action methods, make them as a public. Why? Because these action methods we can call from anywhere in your project, from whichever test case you have, anywhere from your project we can do it. Okay, so this is how we need to create a page object class. For login page we have created. So what is the next step? We have to create a test case. Now writing the test case is very simple, because almost 80% of the job is done through page object class. So let's create the test case now. Go to new class, and I'll name it as a login test. Login test, and say finish. Now by using this page object class, we have to create our login test. Okay, so this is my login test. This is my page object class. Let's keep them side by side. So now by referring this page object class, we have to create our own test case, login test. So let me create a test case. So first I will create one method, void setup. And this method is responsible for what? I will execute this before class only one time, right? So I'll execute only one time. So I'll mention this is the before class annotation. And this will do the setup part. Setup part in the sense, it will create the browser and launch the browser, and opening the application will be done by the setup method. And I will write another method, void test login. So this is the actual test method to perform the login. And this I will specify as a test annotation, and import this test annotation. And the last method I will write void tear down, and this will close my browser at the rate test annotation. This is after class, because I want to execute only once. So 3 methods I have created, and also we have only one test method. So let us implement this with the WebDriver code. We need a driver which is required for all 3 methods, right? So I will create WebDriver variable as a class variable, WebDriver driver. Now import this WebDriver. So forget about this login page now. Forget about this. I will show you how we can use this in our test. So now in the setup method, we have to create the driver. So I can say driver equal to new Chrome driver. So we created WebDriver instance using Chrome driver. And then if you want to put, you can put implicit way driver dot manage dot timeouts dot implicitly wait duration dot off seconds. I can say 10 seconds. Done. Now we'll also launch our application. I can say driver dot get, and here I will specify the URL of the application. Okay, done. So this is how we will do. And also if you want to maximize the page, you can try to maximize driver dot manage dot window dot maximize. So all the setup related stuff we can put in the setup. So done. Now come to the actual. So here we will close my browser. So driver.pit. So now come to the actual test method. So what are the things we need to write in the test method? Nothing. Very, very easy. So we need to just call these action methods from the test method. So the test method will just invoke these action methods. And these action methods will internally interact with the elements using the locators and perform the action. Very simple. So now, if you want to access this action method, how can we access? From the login page, I want to access these methods. How to access? From another class. We need to create an object for login page, right? So let us do that. So in the test login, I will say I'll create object of the login page. Okay. So how to do this? Login page LP equal to new login page, right? Login page LP equal to new login page. And in this login page, we have already created one constructor. And at the time of creating an object, the constructor will automatically invokes. But the constructor is expecting the driver parameter, right? So whatever driver we already created in the test, we just pass this driver. Okay. Now here the constructor will be invoked. The driver will be initiated in the page object class. Now the next step, we need to just call this action method. So now LP dot set the username. And here we will pass the username. I can pass admin. And then what happens from the login page? It will invoke the set username action method by passing the parameter. So this particular method will be triggered. Now what this method will do now, it will receive the username in the variable. Then it will get the element by using locator, then passing the value. So single step will do the job. Same thing we will repeat. LP dot set password. And here we will pass password. It will also invoke set password method from the page object class, pass the value, locate element, and passing the value. Same thing we repeat for login button. LP dot click login. No parameter is required. So we have called 3 action methods from the page object class. So these 3 action methods will invoke these methods from the page object class, and each method internally get the web element and perform the action. Okay. So once you click on the login, we do the validation also, right? So here you will put some validation. Okay, so I'll also put the validation. So validation is always part of the test method. So here I will write one assertion. Asset dot asset equals asset equals. I'm verifying the title of the web page. Okay, so I can get driver dot get title. So dynamically, I'm getting the title driver dot get a title. So that should be equal to what? Orange HR. Okay, done. Clear? Everything very, very simple, right? So because almost 80% of the stuff we have done through page object class. So in the test method, which includes only the action methods, we are just calling and we are doing assertion. That's it. Very simple. Okay. And first setup method will execute. Then test login will execute, which will again interact with the page object class. And finally, tear down method will execute. Very, very simple. So let's go and execute. And which one we have to execute, page object class or test case class? Which class we have to execute? We have to execute test case, not the page object class. So page object class will be referred inside the test case. Okay, let's execute. Now I'm closing my login page and then execute. Run as TestNG test. So now you can see it is launching my browser, going and opening. Now it is enter username and password. Then my test is got passed. Perfect. So this is how we can create our test cases using page object class. Step number 1, we created new page object class, which includes a constructor locators, action methods. Suppose tomorrow, if you want to add some more elements, then you can add some more locators, some more action methods. It's a continuous task. It is not one-time job. Okay. So for now, I have just added only login test case. So these locators, these action methods are enough. But tomorrow, if you want to verify this logo element, that is another test. So then what you will do, you will add this element to the page object class, the locator you will add, and also one more action method also you need to add. For every locator, there is a corresponding action method you need to create. So what constructor is doing is very simple. So because at the time of creating this login page object, we are passing the driver. Whatever driver we created in this test, we are passing the driver. So then the constructor will invoke it from the page object class. And here it will receive the driver, same driver, whatever parameter I'm passing, same parameter I'm receiving here and initiating the local driver, because whatever driver we created here, this driver will not work for the page object class because both are two different classes, right? So that's the reason whatever driver we passed here, we created here, we are just passing here and receiving here and assigning here. So we are getting the driver from the test case and assigning the same driver to the page object class driver. Why? Because this driver is required to find the web elements. Here, everywhere the driver is required. So page object class is also required a driver. So that is the reason we are creating the driver in the setup method. We are passing to the constructor and using this driver instance in everywhere. So this is the concept. So everybody is clear on this. This is the one approach. This is the first approach to create page object class. And once you create your page object class, how we can use it for writing the test case. Okay. Now, so this is the first approach without using page factory. And now I'm going to show you by using page factory how we can create a page object class. So the writing the test case will not change. The process is same, but I will show you another way of creating the page object class. There is another way we can create a page object class. So some people will follow this approach. Some people will follow page factory approach. It depends upon the people and project, because you have to aware of both approaches, because in your company, whichever approach they follow, so you can adopt that particular approach. All right. Now, let me show you another way of creating the page object class. So the test case will not change. Test case exactly the same. Just I'm showing you another way of creating the page object class. So I'm taking another copy of the same login page. I'll name it as login page 1. Previously login page. Now I'm just changing login page 1. Okay, or else you can just login page 2. Okay. So this is the page object class which we created. So in the new approach, in the page factory approach, again, I have 3 sections. Constructor is required. Okay. And locators and action methods also required. But what is a change which we need to do is locators and add action methods. So in the second approach, when I use page factory approach, we no need to use find element or find element methods. So far, if you want to locate, if you want to identify any element, or if you want to find any web element, we must use find element, right? Find element for single element, find elements for multiple elements. So far we have used. But when I use page factory approach, we can avoid find element. We can avoid find elements. We don't need them. How we can avoid? Let me show you. So in this, I'm just removing this part. Okay, or else I'll comment this part. We are writing the locators in the different way. Even action methods also will write a different way. For now, I'm just commenting this. Okay, let's comment. Yeah. Now we'll see. First, we need to create the constructor. How to create a constructor in this? So the way of creating a constructor is also little bit different. So how to create the constructor in this? We will create the same name we have to give. Web driver we have to receive. But internally, what you will do is this dot driver equal to driver is also same. But additionally, we will add one statement. That is page factory class we have to use. Page factory. This is comes from WebDriver itself, Selenium WebDriver. Page factory dot, there is a method in that called init elements. Page factory dot init elements. In this, we have to pass two parameters. One is the driver. The other variable is this. This is the additional parameter which we need to pass. I will explain what is the statement at the end. For now, just ignore. Okay, just we need to add additional statement in the constructor. That's the one change. Now come to the locators part. Earlier, we have captured only locator and store into this variable. And this variable we have referred inside the action method. So now what we need to do is we will take the same kind of an XPath, same thing, but we will write a locator in different manner. So we use something called find by annotation. Find by, in the bracket, we directly specify XPath. So I can say XPath equal to whichever element you want to find, you can specify that XPath here. Directly you can specify in the double quotes. Okay. So you can directly specify like this. So what is the meaning of this? So find by is an annotation which will try to find the element by using this XPath locator. Once you find an element, we have to store that element in a variable. So here we will create one variable called web element txt underscore username. And this web element also we need to import. This is one full statement. And this find by also we need to import from org.openqr.selenium.support. So let me explain what is this statement. So this statement includes locator and also finding the element, both. But earlier, we have just specified only locator and we find the element inside the action method. We have written another find element method to find that element. But here, we do not have this particular thing, find element we are not using. Instead of that, we are using something called find by annotation. In this, we can just pass whichever locator you want. You can pass XPath or you can pass ID. If you are passing ID, you can directly say ID equal to ID value. If you are passing name, you can directly say name equal to the value of the name. Whatever locator you want, you can. If you want to use CSS, then you can say CSS equal to and the value of the CSS selector. So we can directly specify the locator here inside the find by, and this will find that element. Once you find an element, that we are directly storing into this variable. Equal to and all not required here. So this will find that element, immediately it will store in a variable. And you can put this in the next line also if you want. So this will find that element and store into the variable. Now tell me, this variable is a web element or by type variable or web element type of variable? Is it correct or not? Is it a web element variable or by dot variable? It is a web element. Why? Because we already specified locator here and find by annotation is already finding that element and returning that element. So this variable should be web element. In the same process, we have to write locator for other web elements. So for username, for password also, we need to get the locator for password. All right, so get the password element. So this is XPath for the password. And then I can put here. Right, so this is txt password element, password web element. And similarly, this one also, this is a button. So let's get the element for the button. And this is a button element, capture it and place it here. You can use all the locators. Okay, this is btn underscore login. This is the way we have to create the locators. So in this, identifying element is also included. Locator is also included, both. So finally, we got the elements. Directly, we get the elements. Now, how to create an action methods? So let's create an action methods. So the way of creating action method is exactly the same. but only the difference is we just remove the find element, not at all needed. Okay, so remove this part. But how we can pass the value here is we can simply get the web element. We already have this web element, right? Username. Use this web element dot send keys of pass this username. That's it. So we haven't used find element because we already captured the web element here. So you refer the web element dot send keys and pass this username. Same thing we'll repeat here also. Remove this part and directly get this web element txt password dot send keys password. And same button login, get this web element, remove this and put the web element. That's it. So this is another way of creating the page object class. Very simple. This is more flexible and more important. Most of the people will prefer this approach. Okay. So first part is constructor. Second part is again locators. Third part is action methods. The only the difference is previously we have written only the locators and elements we have identified inside the action methods using find element method. But now find by annotation will take care of it. So by using the locator, find by annotation will automatically capture the element and store in here. So we just refer those elements. For example, if you want to find group of web elements, then suppose I want to capture all the links which are there in this particular web page. Okay, I want to capture all the links from this particular web page. So how can capture them? So normally how we will use find elements, right? Find elements of common XPath or find elements of tag name. We'll use something. But how to capture multiple web elements? So let me write the locator for multiple web elements. I want to capture all the links. Then how we can say @find by. And here you can specify. Suppose I want to locate all the links. How we can locate tag name, right? With the tag name. What is the tag name is A. So that you can directly specify. So tag name equal to A. That's it. And then we can store them in a variable. So links. And what is the type of this variable now? List of web element. Got my point? So this is the way we can capture group of web. And why it is giving tag name is element? Because this is a case sensitive tag name. Okay. So like this, we can specify. So this variable contains a group of web elements or multiple web elements. So single web element we can locate. Group of web elements also we can locate using single annotation, which is find by. Everything is depends on the locator what we specified. Understood everyone? So this is the way. Now finally, we have to understand what is this page factory dot init elements. See, when I'm finding my web elements, when I use find element or find by, are we using driver in this anywhere? Driver. Because driver is must, right? If you want to if you want to locate an element or if you want to interact with this element, driver should be must, right? But have you used any driver in this anywhere here? Are we using any driver? No. So without having any driver, find by annotation is trying to find the element internally. How it is possible? Because of this statement. So what this statement will do is from the page factory is a predefined class which is already available in the Selenium WebDriver. In this, we have to call one method called init elements. So what exactly this method will do is this particular method will make sure this particular driver is applicable for all kinds of elements, internally find by elements. So this driver is applicable, automatically applied on every locator internally. So that we cannot access, that we cannot see. But this particular method will try to initiate all the elements using the driver which we passed. That is the meaning of page factory.init elements. Okay, so the init elements is a method which will initiate all the elements using driver. Okay, that much is enough. Just remember this point. And this statement is mandatory. You cannot skip this. But in the previous approach, this statement is not required. But now we are using this, we have created this page object class using page factory model, using page factory approach. That is the reason we have to say this statement. This is mandatory required. If you do not specify this, this won't work. Page object class will not work. Okay. So this is how we need to create a locators and action methods. So should we change this login test now? Is it really required to change the login test according to the new page object class? Is it really required to change? No, right? Why? Because in the test, we are just creating an object for the login page, and we are just calling the action methods. Only the one change we have to do. What is that? Instead of keeping login page 1, you need to just login page 2. That's it. This is the only change because we created another class, right? That's it. So rest of them are exactly the same. No change in the test. Right. Let's execute our test case and see whether it's working or not. Right click, run as TestNG test. Perfect. Now it is launching my page, entering username and password, and test is completed. Okay. So this is another way of creating the page object class using page factory. And most of the times I have seen this is the approach used in all the automation projects. But in case in your companies, if they follow any another approach, you can adopt that approach. Okay, but if you're newly creating a project, first project, new project from the scratch, then I'll prefer to use this particular approach, page factory approach. Suppose if the project is already existed, they already used previous approach. Okay, then you can prefer that. But initial days of Selenium, they have not provided this page factory. In the older versions of Selenium, so initially they have not provided this. So that is the reason people were started creating the page object class in this approach, the first approach. So later on, they have provided page factory. So from then onwards, they have started creating the page object class using find by annotation. Okay, so most of the companies, most of the frameworks, we follow this particular approach. Okay, so if you still want to run this test case using XML file, still you can run it. So let's create another XML file, which is a login test. In XML file, we no need to specify the page object classes. Okay, in XML file, we'll specify only the test case class. Let me create an XML file, Python to TestNG, and I will create this XML file inside SRC, inside the test, inside the Java, inside the day 47, say okay, and then finish. Now I created one XML file which contains the test case, login test. Now we can execute from here, run as TestNG. It has started my test. Perfect. Yes, now it is got executed. Right. So what is the workflow? So how it is got executed? First, we have application under test. So same process, application under test. So we created page object class, which is actually interacting with application under test. And this page we have interacted with our test case class, and the test case is executed through XML file. So entry point is here. And the test XML is executed test case class. Our test case is internally calling page object class action methods, and page object class action methods internally used all the locators, and then it is interacted with the application. So this is a approach we follow in our frameworks in our project. Okay, so these are the two different approaches which we have to create page object classes. Now I will show you a small variation in this. In the second approach, we go back to the second approach. In this, we directly specify the locator like this, right? Just by adding keyword xpath equal to xpath. Suppose if I want to use ID, then you can say ID equal to ID. Or if you want to use name, you can say name equal to name, like that, right? Instead of specifying the locator directly like this, we have another way to specify the locator. So let me show you that. For example, let's comment this. And what I can do in this is remove this part. This is just another flavor. If you want to follow, you can follow. Otherwise, if you feel difficult, you can leave it. Here, we will use something called a keyword called how. Here, you can use some keyword called how. Okay, small case, how equal to, and there is a predefined class called how, another class. Here, this how is just a variable, and here how is a predefined class. In this, if I click on the dot here, you will see all the locators, different options. Class name, CSS, ID or name, link text, name, partial link text, everything is there. So you can take one of the locator. I'm taking XPath. How equal to how.xpath, comma. This is parameter. Now the second parameter here, we have to use another keyword called using equal to, in the double quotes, we have to specify the XPath. This is another way of specifying the locator. So how is a keyword? How equal to how dot, here how H is a capital letter, how dot, here you can specify which locator you want to use, comma, using is also another keyword, equal to, and the value of the XPath you can keep in the double quotes. This is how we need to write. So you can follow this one directly, or you can follow this one. So some people will also use this notation. So by seeing this, you should not be confused. That's the reason I'm saying it this notation. But whichever is preferable, you can prefer that. Which one is easy for you guys? First one or second one? Which one is easy? First one or second one? First one is always easy, right? Yes. So you can go with that, no problem. But somewhere in some projects, if they have used this particular notation, just need to follow this. Okay. So how is a keyword? Equal to how.xpath or how.id, how.tag name, whatever you want to use. And using is a keyword and equal to specify. If you are using ID here, then in this you have to specify ID. And if you are using CSS here, then here you have to specify the CSS value like that. So this is another way of locating web elements using find by. Okay. So this is how we can create page object, class, and the test cases. So understood everybody? So please confirm in the chat box, everyone. So without using page factory, using page factory. Okay, but in some frameworks, very rare case, some frameworks, they didn't even use page object classes. Instead of that, they will keep all the locators in the properties file. In the properties file. In the last class, I have shown you how to read properties file, right? Key and value pair. So they follow the first approach, but instead of creating a Java class, they create all these locators in the properties file. And from the properties file, they will get the locators and implement the action methods. But that is not preferable. That is too lengthy process. But this is the most preferable approach. Either go with the first approach or second approach. Okay. And if you don't even want to watch, if you don't want to use any page object model pattern, then you can use a properties file. That is an alternative, but I don't see anyone using that approach, but there is a way. Okay. So this is the approach we follow in our framework, in our project, in the coming sessions. This is the approach we follow using find by. And we no need to use find element, find elements. Those methods are not needed when I use find by method. Clear, everyone? So please confirm in the chat box. So this is all about page object classes. And if you have a more number of test cases, more number of pages, then you will see a lot of advantage of this. Because if you have a single test case, you will feel some difficulty because to create one test case, do we need to really create two different files? Not needed, right? But if you have a more number of test cases, more number of pages in your application, this will be very, very useful. It will reduce a lot of time and effort. Duplication it will avoid. We can easily update also. Suppose this login page is used in multiple test cases. And if there is any changes happen, you can do change only in one page object class. That will automatically reflect in all the test cases. So when to use find by the tag name? Suppose if we want to find out group of elements, right? So here when I say tag name equal to A, all the links will be captured because every link is tag name is A only, right? So this will capture all the links from the web page and storing into the variable. So whenever you want to capture group of web elements, so for those elements, you will have a same tag name. In that case, you can use a tag name. Otherwise, leave it. I just given one example here. Yes. Is there any purpose of how we understood using page factory and without page factory? So as I told you, initial days of Selenium, they have not provided a page factory approach, page factory class. So at that time, people who have started following this one. So this is the approach, the first approach. We have just captured the locators and we have used a find element. Okay, in the later on, so they have introduced page factory class. So from then onwards, we have started using this page factory class. Okay, what is an advantage of using this approach is we no need to use find element method because find by itself will do two tasks. Identifying the element, say using the locator, it is also identifying the element. So that is an advantage you will get here. But when you go to the previous approach, it is just capturing the locator. That's it. It's not identifying the element. For identifying the element, we have to again write another step inside the action method. But in the latest approach, the find by will automatically capture the locator and element also we find out here. But in the action method, we just specify the web element and do the action methods. Both are almost similar, but only thing is in the latest approach, page factory approach, we no need to use this driver everywhere and we no need to write a separate find element or find elements method. So find by method will automatically take care of it. So second one is a most preferable approach. So because different companies, different people will use different approaches. But as per my experience, my understanding, I always prefer the second approach using find by. Even in our next coming project, the framework, what we are going to develop, we use this particular second approach, page factory approach. Both approaches are fine, okay? So slightly differences, but the way of working is almost, it will not improve any speed or performance or anything. Both will execute similar fashion. But when I use find by annotation, we can simply avoid few things. So there is no specific purpose, just to reduce our some effort. That is the reason they have introduced this page object model pattern. All right. So that's all for this class. Practice this. And you can also create multiple page object classes, and we can refer multiple page object classes in one single class also we can do if possible. But in the framework, you will get more clarity because you will automate more number of test cases. We will create more number of page object classes. So you will learn a lot of things. Okay, so for whatever we learn, we will integrate all these concepts in one single place. So that is our framework. So when you create a framework, the first and most important task is creating the page object classes. So there we will spend a lot of time. 70% of the time we will spend while creating the page object classes. So once you create your page object classes, the rest of the things will become very, very easy. So creating the test cases are very easy than creating the page object classes because page object classes will take a lot of time consuming effort because we will have so many elements in the so many pages. We need to deal with all of them. Okay. So from the next class, we will start creating the framework using page object model pattern. So before that, practice this, both approaches and get familiar with this, and we will continue on the next class. Okay.